This week's episode is brought to you by the crew over at Dog and Gun Coffee. And you guys can get $10 off your next order when you use the code Bowhunter. That's Bowhunter in all caps locks, and that will get you $10 off your next order of delicious coffee made for adventure.
Hey there, and welcome to Becoming a Bowhunter. I'm your host, Matty, and join me and our guests as we take the quality of meat back into our own hands. Searching the wild for free-ranged animals to harvest as ethically as we can. I interview a variety of specialists from the bow hunting community to help fast-track your journey as a bow hunter. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this chinwag on one of your favorite topics in the world, bow hunting.
Team, what is up? Got a cracker of an episode for you this week. We're talking all about the bovine species with Harry Stenton, absolute top bloke who runs True Wild Outfitters up in Northern Territory. And Harry's got a really interesting story in general. He's an Englishman that's made his way over and now has followed his love for hunting and the outdoors pretty much his whole life, really, which has led into the scenario that he's in right now. And the man is full of knowledge and has some really great stories to share. So I'm going to shut up and let you guys sit back, relax, and enjoy the episode.
Well, alrighty, bow hunters, welcome back to another episode. Sitting here, very excited for this one, sitting with Harry Stenton. Harry, you were introduced to me in a few different ways. You've been a name that's been thrown around the podcast many, many times because of True Wild Outfitting, which is what you run. But then also, I think pretty much just from different people coming and visiting you, but then also I've had a fair few people just reach out to me on Instagram and say, man, you should really get Harry on. World of knowledge, like a wealth of knowledge, 27-year-old that has done more things than most men will ever do in their whole lives. And so when I reached out and you actually said yes, I was like, sick, this is good, let's go for it. And we've just had a good yarn even just before we started. But, mate, what the heck is an Englishman doing over in the top north of Australia? Like, how did that all happen, and how did you become a guide? How did your whole world kind of cross, I guess, from being over in, did you say North Yorkshire was where you're from?
North Yorkshire, yep.
Yeah, that's where you started, and then you came over to Australia, and now you're living in NT. How'd that all come about?
Well, yeah, I'm born and bred on a sheep farm in North Yorkshire there, and I suppose that's how I got into the hunting side of it. You know, we had roe deer on the place and a few fallow deer, and did a lot of driven hunting and shooting with my parents, like pheasants and partridges.
Driven meaning like you're walking through to push the animals out?
Yeah, we sort of take it in turns. Some people walk and then shoot, and you swap around.
Yeah.
And you have Labradors and Spaniels to pick up the shot birds and flush them out of the timber. And then, so my father and my mother both sort of said, the farm will be here for you if you want it, but you should go do a trade. So I did electrical work. I did my apprenticeship, got that done. And, I was working in the oil industry, and the oil barrel hit the sort of rock bottom low when I'd finished, and the chances of touring around the world with work had sort of dried up. It was going to stay at the factory and make some more submersibles that we were making at the time. That's what I did my trade in. And I thought, well, bugger this. My idea was, my sort of bigger picture was to travel the world with work and see things and hunt different animals and, just experience the world. So I sort of gave that job up and got some farm work in Australia, working on livestock properties and cropping properties, and did a stint shearing sheep.
That's it. Did you set up like one of the Facebook pages or whatever they've got?
Oh, I think just because my family have been in agriculture, and we've had family members in the past come over and do harvests over here. So, yeah, I've been lucky and fortunate in the fact that my family are quite well connected with agriculture. So that opened a lot of doors. And then, once I got over here, just was going mad doing the livestock work and a lot of hunting, and certainly not a lot of what people nowadays call life progress. I certainly wasn't saving money or buying a house or anything along those lines. It was very much easy come, easy go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got a gig up in Queensland, northern Queensland, Richmond, Julia Creek, with a friend, and that was like my first cattle, big sort of station. Did some cattle work there, and the pay was not desirable, but we got to hunt pigs with dogs and do a lot of hunting with rifles. They had brumbies they needed shot, pigs, wild dogs, even some camels.
Yeah, wow.
So yeah, we did a bit of hunting like that, and rooster deer just north of us, which I didn't actually shoot one when I was there the first time because we seen it and we weren't sure if we were allowed to, so we left it alone. And then the manager who was our boss said, "Oh, did you shoot it?" We said, "Oh no, we left it." He goes, "Oh, buggy, you should have shot it. That would have been awesome." And then we sort of wanted to go to the territory. We'd had a taste of the wilds of northern Queensland, and we wanted to go to the ultimate backcountry of Australia, the last frontier of Australia. Got a job on Conway Station when it was changing ownership between a Kiwi company that focused heavily on Leithen Valley Safaris, they're called, that focused heavily on buffalo hunting, safaris, and obviously live export of beef cattle, Brahman cattle. Worked for them. We only did, I think it was only 6 or 8 weeks we worked for them, and we met the new owners. Like, it was right at the changeover. We were working for the previous owners, but we met the new owners, and small contract. We took off after a month and a half, and we had actually a really big night, and we smacked a few bottles of gin and thought, hell, we'll have a good yarn. And the owners, they said, "Oh, we're not going to continue the hunting because we don't like the idea of, firearms on the property. We think it's a potential risk and, it's a hazard," which obviously running a property up here, there's always going to be a firearm.
It's not going to happen, right? Yeah.
No, feral animals and humane dispatch of sick or injured animals, And once I voiced that opinion and, drunken conversation saying, I'd love to manage the hunting side of it for you. And the guy who was guiding for the old owners was still there, Blair Hampton.
Yeah.
He actually started, me and him started True Wild Outfitters together. We did the first 2 seasons operating together. And he taught me, a lot about the guiding side of it. He's an excellent bushman, probably one of the best hunters I've ever hunted with in my entire life. Just can read animals, and he'd done that full time for 8 years. He'd traveled the world. That was his job. He was a hunting guide, New Zealand, Australia, Canada. So I learned the ropes off him, and the owners took up our business plan, and I took off and left for that season because it was over, and came back the following year and we got into it.
Dude, that's incredible. That's pretty crazy what a good yarn over a few gins can do, hey?
Yeah, you want to be careful saying that out here in the territory. So rumours start. But no, it's one of those things. Opportunities present themselves to people that aren't scared of having a go. Or
definitely, right.
I never ever thought in my wildest dreams. Obviously I wanted to hunt a buffalo, and I got that opportunity too. The old owner said, "Well, you've worked hard for us. Go out with Blair and go shoot yourself a buffalo." So we did. We all did. All of us workers did, and from that, I knew straight away that that's something I loved and I wanted to keep going. So that had planted the seed in my head, and just so happens that evening we had a few too many, and we got talking, and a bit of confidence built up, and I approached this big, scary what I thought was scary at the time, new owners, this, that, and the other, wealthy sort of people, and said, "Oh well, I'd be keen to keep it going," and one thing led to another, and bit of paperwork and a business plan, and here we are today, still going.
And so what? That's 4 or 5 years down track.
5 years, but 4 seasons, because I wouldn't say I got stuck in New Zealand, but I went to New Zealand for a 2-week holiday to then return to collect a visa, and right when COVID decided to happen. So I was over there for a 2-week holiday turned into 15 months.
Oh, far out. Just to chuck a little spanner in the works, hey?
Oh, sort of, but I met my beautiful partner, and, she's come over here, and she's now working as a nurse in Catherine Hospital, and we're pretty, happy with where we're at, and we have a sort of a bright future, and we have plans of doing some great things. So every
it's-
cloud has a silver lining.
Exactly right. It's so incredible. I think to touch on what you just touched on before, like talking about the really it's the truth about luck, and I think people often pass a lot of things off as people being lucky. Oh, you just got lucky. You were just in that circumstance and you got lucky, or that's happening to you just because you're a lucky person. But really, you actually really fought hard for those situations to happen, and you continue to do that. And it's kind of like you said, fortune favors the bold. I think the whole thing with that is like the more that you put yourself out there, the more you get to know people and network and do those sides of things is going to really help out. And something that I think is just absolutely incredible was the gift that you gave your partner for her birthday. You posted up the other day, you're like, oh, someone seems pretty stoked, and it was like, yeah, birthday gift of driving her around or flying her around in a helicopter. He said, yeah, I just got talking to a mate, and he was able to do a little favor for me. I'm like, how incredible is that? Like, it's not what you know, it's who you know in many occasions, right?
Yeah, and that is the beauty of this industry. You get to meet a lot of amazing people from a lot of different walks of life, whether it's through, you're working alongside them, they're a client, or, they're a business that transport your trophies, they do the taxidermy. You meet so many people, and as like you say, fortune favors the bold. If you're open to ideas and you put yourself out there, and take every opportunity that comes, because, sometimes you feel like you give in more than you get in, or sometimes you feel like you're backing up the wrong tree. But it's like stalks, you can't expect every stalk to come up to a dead animal or a hunted animal, So same with that, the more opportunities you have with stalks, the more animals you get. And same with life opportunities. The more you put yourself out there and the more you put yourself in those lucky, in inverted commas, situations, some of them are going to come through, and that's there's no point sitting around being a sad sack saying someone has all the good access. You've got to get yourself out there and have a go.
100% agree. Pretty off topic. Oh, not very. It's very on topic, but off subject. It was last night I actually got to go and see Elton John because our neighbours just around the corner, we always stop and have a little chat with them when we're walking our dog. Yeah, one of them was sick. And so the other one was like, hey, do you want to come to the show with me tonight? I'm like, I had a fair bit on. I was like, you know what? Actually, heck, why not? Like, because the last time I'm ever going to see, or first and last time I'm going to see Elton, so why the heck not? May as well take that opportunity. So I just had to move a few things around. The wife was happy for it to happen and just made it happen. I was like, well, yeah, I think there's so many people in that situation or that circumstance would be like, it's just too hard. There's too many other things, like too many what ifs or too many couldn'ts or shouldn'ts, and so they just get rid of it. Like, no, I'll leave that opportunity. I'm like, no, if you want more opportunities to keep coming your way, you got to start taking the ones that are getting thrown your way firstly.
Yeah, 100%. It sounds corny and it's sort of cheesy, but most people only regret the things they don't do, and I'm happy that in my younger years, sort of 18 till 25, say, I did a lot of traveling around the world and worked. And yes, I didn't get a lot of money saved, and I didn't have sort of what some people see as, the optimum lifestyle, but I gave myself a lot of opportunities and had a lot of fun. So that's sort of put me where I am today.
I was going to say it's I'd take life experience and adventures over a saving. Like a money saving, whatever the amount is, right? I pretty much did the same thing, dude. Like choosing to travel with the band and whatever when I was younger. It was like we were paying out of our ass to do it. Like we were pretty much paying everywhere we'd go. We'd go and work our asses off just so we could tour. But then the experience that we got to have when we're in the band and touring and getting to see just different parts of the world and meeting different people is just it was an incredible experience that I wouldn't swap it for anything.
No, and that's it. I suppose, unfortunately, money does make the world go round, and at some stage you have to sort of focus. And I'm probably in the not in the early stages, but I'm really focusing now, and great things are going to start happening. But it's not only people look at that and think I can't do it. You do make a lot of sacrifices. Like I haven't seen my family for 4 years in England now with work and COVID. It stresses you. Financial stress is a big thing for a lot of people, and I've not been as comfortable as I should be with a lot of things, and being in foreign countries, you don't always have the medical support or all that sort of thing. So as much as people look and they see you've had great experiences and done awesome things, like
it's come with stresses.
This goes back to the whole luck, and you're a lucky person. You make them sacrifices to do what you want to do, and it's nothing's free.
Man, I live with two of my best mates, and when I first moved out of home, and pretty much we were on opposite fortnights of pay schedule. Essentially,
Yeah.
we would trade off who was buying a little bit of extra stuff that week because of the payday, and everyone else was on like $10 left for the week, sort of thing. Like, it was ridiculous how little we actually lived on, and it's like the person who was getting paid would buy the extra box of meagering or whatever it was just to make sure that we were all fed for the week. But we had some fun times, that's for sure. So yeah, I definitely, I can definitely relate to both sides of it, right? Like, I'm now in the stage of trying to settle down a lot more, and I've got kids and a family to kind of look after a bit more. But I've also found this glorious thing called hunting, which is quite a costly little hobby to have at times, depending on what you do with it as well, right? Like, I think it's expensive to get set up with, but once you're up and running, like, I reckon we probably saved 10 grand in meat just over the last year and a half, just because of my hunting adventures. Like, it really can pay off with what you go and do about it. So yeah, I think it once again, it's kind of that fortune favors the bold. Like, I was bold enough to go out and get into bow hunting and get into that side of it, and here we are a few years down track, and it's all kind of paid off really well for us. So yeah, it's quite an interesting subject, and I think realistically, if people keep that in mind when they are looking for properties, and it's not about going out and finding the properties, it's about going out and making some new connections and some new networks, meeting property owners, and not hitting them up for the property as such, but hitting them up for, hey, how can I help you? We actually went on a block just recently, me and some mates, and it's a paid block usually. We went on, we were just helping the guy out, and he said, you know what, in 22 years I've had people coming to my property, you guys are the first ones that have ever actually helped me, like offered up your time outside of time when people are hunting to come and help me. And we just did some poisoning for him, just did some spraying and stuff, and some splitting of logs. But yeah, that just blew my mind. I'm like, 22 years and we're the first ones. Like, what the heck? It just seemed so crazy to me. I understand that a lot of the time people are coming to pay to be there, but still, I just always think, yeah, why not just chuck out a hand? Like, I actually enjoy the work. It's like, why not? But yeah, it just baffles me.
Yeah, going back to what you were saying about the the expensive sort of a hobby. Mm-hmm. I think it is and it isn't. And like you touched on the fact that you save a lot of money and you get some great quality meat out of it, which is, a big bonus. But one thing I see a lot in the, in the hunting industry as a outfitter, it's often the people that come to us with, yes, they've got great gear, they've got good gear that works, but they might not necessarily, have the new flagship bow or, a double rifle that's worth $60,000 and a set of $5,000 binos,
Definitely.
Often the people that are focused on getting out there, they'd rather put that money into the diesel to get to the property 100%. Or, some gifts to give to a property owner so they can actually get, time in the hills or wherever they're hunting. They're the guys that come, yes, they've got gear that's suitable for the job, but it's not, the best, fanciest gear, the most expensive gear. They're the ones that, seem to have the most success and also have the most fun because they're not worried about their new gun getting scratched or their new, their new bow getting rattled around in the old Toyota. They're so focused on the hunting and not the gear that goes with it. I feel like, they're more successful as hunters and easier for me to work with,
Yeah, I can imagine a little bit precious, or less precious, I should say. But I mean, realistically, like if you're out buying a bow every year, you're dropping $2,000 or more. If you're buying a gun every year, it's another $2+ grand a year. Like if you save that for a few years, you've got a paid guided hunt every 2 to 3 years, right? Like it really is quite accessible. Like I had James Doomsis on recently talking about his trip to America. And how affordable it can be if you actually prioritize right to make it happen. And I think it's the same thing for, all over Australia. And what you guys have up at True Wild Outfitters, like buff is I think buffaloes and the bovine species in general, like people really want to, I really want to get up to a scrub ball. That's almost a pinnacle for me. I don't know. But then the buff, like people just love them. And look at it as like an extra, like a once in a lifetime opportunity. But I don't really think that's the case. I think it can be probably every few years if you really love it and it's something that you wanted to do, something you can prioritize, and you can definitely make it happen, right?
Yeah, and like because of COVID times and stuff, we've been predominantly Australian clients for the last couple of years, and people come up and yes, sometimes before they get to know us and they know what sort of, the experience we provide and the quality of animals that they hunt and the opportunities they get, they have sort of sometimes thought, oh, well, that's a lot of money. And you can sort of tell with liaising with them, they're committed, but, it's a big investment for them.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time they get up here and, the opportunities they get on animals, the great animals they get, the experience they get in camp, how hard we have to work sometimes, your head skinning because you have to cape them and salt them straight away until 11, 12 o'clock some nights. And, you've got 3 guys in camp and they shoot 2 animals each, hunting for 5 days, you're up till 1 o'clock every day, every morning.
It's full.
They go, well, heck, like, you actually should be more expensive. And, I feel like I've got more than my money's worth for this trip. And, in 2 years' time, when I've got time or, the missus allows it, or when I get these other hunts out of the way, I'm coming back,
Yeah, that's incredible. What do you reckon some people come into camp that actually ruins their experience? Like, is there something that people come up just saying, like, I have to get this or this has to happen, and it can take away from their experience? Do you reckon that's something that people do, or do you think it's more so people are just happy to be there on the adventure?
Oh, it's all different for every single hunter. Like, we're all different, but I think the biggest thing for people coming up here is, like, just trusting your outfitter. Like, we're professionals at what we do, and not being big-headed. We shoot great animals consistently. We don't spread ourselves too thin. And, people come with, an expectation that great Uncle Bill 60 years ago came up here in the culls and shot 3,000 buffalo, and he got one monstrous buffalo before they culled them all out, and they expect to pay Australian prices and shoot a genuine wild animal that big. Yeah. And I'm not saying they're not out there. They are out there, but, we've got 375,000 acres unfenced. And if you fixate yourself on a number, solely looking for a number, you can ruin that whole experience, because we could get to 20 yards off a 98-inch bull, a 96-inch bull, which is old, mature, heavy. He's busted his tips off. He's not been a pretty boy. He's done his fate and he's done his route and he's spread his genetics. And they go, oh, well, if he's not going to make that number, I don't want to shoot him. And they sort of, they've not only taken the respect away from that animal, but
that's crazy.
They sort of lost that hunt. Like, that whole scenario could have been perfect, but they'd be happy to shoot one out of the side of the car that goes the number. And you sort of go, well, to me, that's sort of taken away from your hunting experience, like it's
definitely, it's not, I guess it's still an experience, but it's a very different one, isn't it? When it's a shot from the side of the car versus, hey, we had to actually walk for it. We had to maneuver around the bull because the wind was changing. Like, it definitely doesn't make for a very great story, does it? Oh, we're driving along, we just saw this bull. we took a shot.
And I mean, we always take opportunities. It's a very thick sort of country. Definitely. When we get up the top of the river systems, and you might be driving, and who knows, like, sometimes you're 30, 40 meters off a bull before you see them. And I might not have seen him before, and, trying to get out of the vehicle there won't work. So we'll just drive off into the scrub and, walk in on him. And some people might go, oh, well, that's not the hunt I wanted, because I wanted to walk for 10 kilometers up the river. But they also forget, we're on a time scale, and if we see an opportunity like that, there's a good chance we might never see that animal again. So if we see a freaking good one, and so I'm rambling on, but really,
I understand it, man. I think it's good for people to understand as well, because it's like, hey, if you are going on a hunt, you can't just expect it's going to be it's just not dreams that are all going to come true. And hopefully it does all play out the way you want it to. But at the same time, it's good to, I think expectations can ruin a hunt in general, right? No matter what you're going for. I think if you go out, and it's something I used to always do when I very first started, it was such a big expectation on, I was bringing home an esky full of meat. And then when it wouldn't come to fruition, I'd walk away from the hunt very disappointed. Although I felt great, like my cup was full because I got my experience in. I had this expectation which ruined the hunt, which shouldn't have even been there realistically, because I think it was me putting more pressure on myself and made the situations not actually come to play. Like, I'd make a silly movement right on the stalk or whatever, and it would ruin the hunt. And I think that like, having that expectation on things, it can definitely ruin an experience in that sense. It's like, hey, if you can remove that expectation, go up, know that you're going to be well looked after, like you said, by the guide, like someone who knows the block incredibly well, knows where the bulls are going to be. I think you're just going to set yourself up for a better week no matter what.
Yeah, and exactly like we touched on before we started, like the people that come up we're going to guarantee you to shoot a big mature bull. Like we have a lot of animals, like good quality animals.
Mm-hmm.
So that's never a worry. So like as soon as you start planting that seed in your head, that worry manifests and you become, it's something you fixate on.
Yeah. Yeah.
The people that come with, I'm here for a great experience. I've already seen 3 bulls on the drive into camp, from Darwin, like up our camp track.
Yeah.
They're so relaxed and, they go with the flow. And I don't know whether it's Murphy's Law or what it is, but they always end up shooting the rippers for the year. The people that come and they don't say anything about size and they just really enjoy, embrace the whole territory experience, the birds, the wildlife, the country.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just seems to fall into place for them.
That's awesome. So, being unexperienced with buff in general, what is like a good size? Like you said, 100-inch before. Is that kind of like the top of the top, or is that like that's a good size bull? Like what are we talking at?
So, like a mature bull will start at about 85 inches. As far as a business side of things, if you're on a property paying for animals, which we all are, we're running businesses, you pay trophy fees on anything over 85 inches.
Yeah.
And the difference between a bull that's 85 inches and 100 inches could literally be the fact that the 85-inch bull has done a lot of fighting and he snapped his horns right off past his ears, like he's just been a real battler.
Yes. Yeah.
But like we sort of aim for the, in the 90s is what we sort of guarantee our clients.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go for the, high 80s up to high 90s is like our bread and butter. And then, out of the 30-odd bulls we shoot a year, we get 10 or so that do break that magic 100. 100 like we measure SCI, that's sort of, like I said to you, it's like a 14-point red stag or a 13-inch bull tar, it's your like 240 fallow, it's like your pinnacle of what you're trying to achieve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's not to say you wouldn't happily shoot, a very old, mature 10-point red stag, if he's long, he's got mass, he's old, like
definitely
you're still going to go, he's a tremendous animal,
Yeah, definitely. And unlike the deer, for instance, like you said, it's a horned animal, so knocking the tips off of it, they're never going to grow them back. It all grows from the base rather than a deer, which is going to knock them off and start again the next year, and spit out new antler every single year. Like your horned animals, like your goats and your bovine, for instance, once they lose the tips, they're gone, right? It's not coming back.
Yeah, and it's funny because, you do get old bulls that are, we're sort of hunting bulls from 8 years old plus is sort of where they get in the country we're at anyway. It's not, we call them sort of ridge buffalo in a respect that we don't have big open floodplains with lush green grass all year.
Yeah, okay.
They have 4 months of green grass per year, and then after that they're on hay-off feed, and it's pretty tough. There's a lot of rocky ridges and the water can be a long walk from the feed. So 8 years old is when they're sort of getting around to that 90 points and up that we're looking for. And obviously there is genetic freaks that are 5-6 years old and they're already over the magic number.
Definitely.
And you go as a guide, you look at him and you go, but he's a young animal. I can tell by, his face, like the way his face is, he hasn't grayed off, and his body structure. And if he's hanging around with young bulls still, you might think, oh, well, he still doesn't know he hasn't figured out he's a dominant bull yet.
Yeah.
And you think I'll leave him for another couple of years because, he's got potential to get to that, like the holy grail of like 110s, which we haven't actually shot a 110 on our place yet. I have seen one when I've been on my own, but I didn't have the heart to shoot him. And you come back the year after, and they've gone and snapped 6 inches or 8 inches off one side fighting.
Yeah, of course.
And then apart from, some Americans and Europeans, a lot of people like symmetry, and they also, to a certain extent, most people are chasing a score of some description. So, 8 inches off one side turns your 100-inch bull into a 92, which, some people aren't keen on that,
Yeah, far out. You said that you've seen a few that and like obviously being around the animals, you just kind of get to know. But how do you actually how do you gauge it? How do you gauge the size of it? Like talking to talking to Liam a few weeks ago on the podcast, actually just dropped yesterday or whenever it was, but he essentially said when a goat turns its head to the side, if its antlers or if its horn, is in line with the hip, you know it's roughly around the 40 incher. Is there something similar that you gauge the buff off of?
Yeah, so you've only really got the ears and the body mass to work off, so it can be deceiving. You get an old bull that's very shelly and has, he might only be 350, 400 kilos. Mm-hmm. He might be a 92-inch bull, but he looks huge because, he's got no body mass with big horns.
Yeah.
Or you get something that's 6 years old and he's 103, but he's 650 kilos, and he makes his horns look small. So the way we do it is, you need to see them from a few angles. So you want them looking straight at you, and ideally we're looking at the ears, which are roughly sort of 10 inches in length, roughly. Mm-hmm. So you want at least 3 lengths of the ear.
Yeah, okay.
So, and then the girth of the horn, like an average bull is about 16 inch at the bases.
Yeah.
And once you've seen a few, you can tell once they start getting heavier, it gets quite obvious. You're working off 16 inches, but if he's heavier than that, they can get up to sort of 20. We've had 22-inch bases on some bulls, which it just looks like they've got a big log, tree strapped to the head,
Yeah, I can imagine.
So it's so deceiving because, you get your sort of wide, straight bulls, you get sweeping bulls, and then you also get like alarm going off. You also get, your circular crescent sort of style bull.
Yeah.
And your crescent bull will always go bigger over the tape than your straight bull, comparable with how impressive they look.
Yeah, okay.
Because, imagine measuring around the outside of a circle compared to measuring a straight line. If something's dead straight, if he goes 100 inches, when you first see him, everyone in the car without binos will go, holy shit, look at that thing.
Yeah.
Whereas you'll see circular bulls, like this year was so true to that. Like there's one awesome crescent shaped bull, and he was quite regular on one sort of flat area with a spring, and multiple people saw him and said, oh, he's awesome, he's great. Like you see a big buffalo, like a trophy quality animal, everyone knows it's a trophy quality, but they don't know the size. And I took a couple of people that were very fixated on the 100 number and said to them, like, I know he's going to do he's bigger than 100. Yeah. I know he is. But then they go, oh, well, I want a straight out wide one that's 100. And I'm like, well, so does the whole of Australia, that is what we all want. But like, I'm making it's not even a compromise. Like I'm saying like, as far as I'm known, like we're in day 2, we've seen some great animals that, they're wide, they're heavy, they're what you want, but they're 94, 93. They're not the number you want. This one is the number you want, but he's not the shape you want. I'll show them multiple animals, and then I can't pull the trigger for them. It's their trophy. They got to make their decision. And we drove past him. I got some great photos of him. We, 4 or 5 clients drove past him, and one bloke said, "Yep, we'll shoot him." And then we spooked the cows, the wind swirled, and it didn't happen. And then one day a guy came to me and he just happened to say, like, I really like that crescent shape, and obviously the bigger they are, the better. That's sort of what we're coming for. And cool. Sure as shit. We went out there and we got him and he went 103. And it was, I drove clean past him. He was wallowing in this swamp, and there's a lot, like we do a lot of off track bush bashing. So, I'm in the shorty cruiser focusing so hard not to run over tire stakes and rocks and pig rootings and stuff. And I still have a really good eye for spotting them because obviously it's what you do day in, day out. But
definitely,
he said, whoa, what's that down? And he was tucked right under the undercut of the riverbank. There was a dead tree and a wallow, and he was that camouflage. All you could see was like just half of his face. He was in the shadows and one horn sticking out. And, it's pretty special when, yes, I put that guy in the area. Like I know he's there, but I've missed him. He spotted him. And as soon as he seen him, he was like, fuck, that's the one. I love that one. And,
that's cool.
It feels like a lot less fabricated, a lot less, forced. It's just so natural. And I don't know, when it all comes through like that, it's just, it makes you realize how great this job can be, how awesome it can be.
Yeah, dude, that's incredible. in regards to like, obviously you have a lot of rifle hunters come through. Do you have a lot of bow hunters come through as well?
I'd say we're getting a lot more bow hunters like the last 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
We sort of, Kimmy actually won a hunt, Kimmy Guest,
Yep.
in Avant. She won a hunt through Blood Origins. They did a giveaway to raise some money for them guys. And she won it. So, yes, I'd had multiple bow hunters before then, but I was inexperienced and, I would, yes, I know the animals and I know the country, but I didn't necessarily, have the patience or the stalking ability. My stalking ability, I'd get people to 30 or 40 meters with the open sight double rifles because that's, dangerous game hunting. You get close, but, they can take a frontal shot, and they've got another one straight there. As soon as they hit him once, as they turned, I'd say, shoot him again,
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas there was such a contrast of, with the bow, you're trying to get, sub 30 meters, ideally, like, Kimmy shot hers at 19 meters, as close as you can because, to save the arrows hitting them harder, faster. But not only that, you've also got to have that nice presentation of shot, like a perfect frontal with someone that's very confident or broadside, slightly quartering away, taking that one step with the leg. It's a lot of things to try and get lined up,
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. And so do you think that's kind of what maybe edged you over to pick up the bow?
Well, that sort of started open the floodgates for the bow hunters. That them guys sort of have a bit of a following and people seeing that we got some great animals for those guys with the bow.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I had James Brazina and his partner. They came up from Arrow.
Yep.
Arrowed arrows, and he came up and they shot some really, really nice animals with the bow, and they were pretty stoked with the experience. And I'd looked after them, and a few things hadn't gone 100% as we wanted them to, and we just we worked it all out, and everything came great in the end. All the animals we got them, it was awesome, and they sort of appreciated my time and effort that I'd put in. And he messaged me one day, and he was like, "Oh, I'm going to send you up a bow."
No way.
So he sent me up a PSE NTN, I believe it's called. It's a 70-pound bow, and it was set up with his arrows and quiverizer, like spot hog, fast eddy. It was like,
no way.
Everything
Primer.
ready to go.
Yeah.
And I'd actually shot the one buffalo when I first worked on the property, and I'd never shot another one for myself apart from, backup shots for clients or finishing off animals that they sometimes couldn't keep up with, if they took off and I stalked them down to finish the job. And I sort of expressed that to James. I said, "Oh, I love hunting and I love giving people the experience of, getting such a magnificent animal. And, being a part of that is amazing. I still froth it, but I lost a lot of love. Like, I didn't want to kill one myself with a gun because to me, everyone that I've seen pretty well, I knew that I could get sub 80 meters off it. And I knew that, even with my 308, which is what I carry, just day-to-day life, around the station for shooting wild dogs or pigs, even with my smaller calibers that I wouldn't necessarily use for buffalo hunting, if I needed to, I could get the job done. And it just, definitely. I don't know. It's like it was too easy.
Yes.
Like it was
I understand.
I don't want to sound like spoiled or ridiculous by saying that. I don't think it
does. And I think also because you're talking to an audience that is predominantly bow hunters, a lot of them understand that, right? Like when you've hunted with a bow, it's very different to hunting with a rifle. Like I went out with a rifle just on the weekend with a mate with a rifle, and we knocked over 3 deer that probably we wouldn't have got any of them if we had the bow because the winds were swelling that much. It's just the fact of the matter, right?
Yeah. And then, so I got the bow and it actually rocked up at the post. Like my post goes to Catherine and we were coming through town and I wanted to introduce Kimmy and Avant to my missus and she had the day off work. So we stopped in Catherine and sure as crap, the bow was there and I was all excited and had Kimmy and Avant. So I said, "Oh, well, can you show me how to use it?" Like he had a release aid, everything. Like I was set, ready to go, his own broadheads.
Yeah.
And I remember I drew it back and it actually, because he was the same draw length as me. So I have got Top End Outdoors, Jim McWilliam, to bloody adjust a few things and restring it for me since then. But it was good enough for me to shoot. And the first shot I remember, I drew back and was looking at the target terrible target panic, like scared as shit that I was going to miss it and send it into the river. And yeah, I snatched the trigger and Ivan was just like in pieces with laughter. He's like, sorry, bro, I'm trying to help you, but that was the fucking funniest thing I've ever seen. Like, he reckon I just like pounced on it like a cat, like flinched. But anyway, yeah, they gave me some advice and I shot maybe half a dozen in front of them. And we had to obviously go to Darwin and drop them off back for their flight and pick up the next clients, which I'd actually had in the previous year. Took the bow back out to the property with me, and in camp after the first day, we'd snapped down the line. We'd snapped a steering arm and had a few mechanical issues, and we got a great bull on the ground, but it was one of those days, I'd taken a big chunk of skin out of my finger trying to fix the car, and I was like, bugger it, I've shot the bow for the last 3 days, and I've been hitting 20 and 30. I've been shooting like a tennis ball at 20 and, like a smoko plate at 30, which I understand some people probably don't think that is suitable for hunting. But I thought, well, I'm just going to go for a walk down the river. Just take the bow.
When it's got a ticker the size of a smoko plate, as you put it, like that's, I don't think it's that bad.
Yeah. And then I walked down the river, literally from camp, walked less than 600 meters, 200 meters to the river, and just walked up it and crested a little rise where there's some sort of flooded timber that's been wedged up in the bank, and crested over the top, and there's a bull wallowing there in the creek, and I was sort of thinking, I don't need to shoot a buffalo bull. And he winded me and took off up the creek a little bit, and because he didn't really get a good look at me, he just sort of heard me and then smelt something. He took off but didn't see me. He then turned around from about 50 meters and just marched straight back up to sub 30, like just walked straight in like the king of the hill, head up in the air, and he was on a little bit of a rise from me, like full frontal, head up in the air, which again, a frontal shot, some people disagree with it, but I'm shooting less like a tennis ball at that range.
Yes, yeah.
I don't know, I didn't subconsciously think I'm going to shoot this animal. I already had an arrow on the string. It just happened, and I drew back on him and settled the pin, and I just felt, my form probably wasn't what it should be for someone who's been hunting with a bow for years, but felt good, and I let go, let it fly, and it hit him. I've got the video. I can send it through to you after this. It hit him perfectly, and the arrow fully disappeared, zipped in there. And he stood there, he ran 10 meters, and he just stood there, and I could just see all from his nose, his mouth was just like 2 hose pipes coming out.
Yeah.
And he lifted his head back up and composed himself, because he had the wobbly legs, and he just started walking, and he walked 50 meters, just a normal slow pace walk as if he'd not been hit. And he went to come up like a little pad up out of the creek, and just that extra bit of energy or something he had to exert, he just did 2 steps. I've got the whole video, the whole sequence on video, just with my iPhone, after I'd taken the shot. And he just went 2 steps up there, lifted his head right back, and then not a full rear up onto his back legs, but he sort of leant back onto his back legs and then fell over sideways. And
wow.
That was him,
This is an interesting topic, and I actually I've had this conversation quite a lot about the frontal shots on bigger species, like particularly the buff and bovine, or buff and cows, I should say, buff and bulls. But pretty much a lot of people actually say that that's probably a preferred method. And I'm very intrigued to see what your thoughts are on this, being that you've probably seen it quite a few times, between that shot versus a broadside shot, or slightly just off broadside where the front foot is forward, like the perfect shot, like you kind of said before. Do you have a preference? Do you have kind of thoughts around it as someone who's seen it probably quite a lot?
A well-executed shot's a well-executed shot, regardless of, angle. I've shot a buffalo bull quartering on an angle, and, Jim from Top End Outdoors, he's also shot one quartering on. Just, if you know your gear and you know the exact anatomy of the animal, and you're in a range where, you're less than 20 and you're
comfortable with the shot,
bang on.
Yeah.
Any angle there is a shot, it's the whole idea of picking the right shot placement is reducing risks of hitting bone or not getting penetration. A well executed frontal shot is 100% fatal. If it's dead center and it's the right height, the arrow always fully penetrates.
Yes. Yeah.
Ivan, he was using 64-pound draw weight because he was hunting a lot of Chiddle, and I think he had 480 grain arrows.
Yeah, wow.
With Cayugas up front, the Zots, and people would say that's not a suitable setup for hunting buffalo. But he frontal shot his bull at 26 meters, and the arrow fully disappeared, and the bull went 20 meters, and you don't get deader than that bull with a bow shot. It literally ran, turned back and looked once, no blood out of the nose or anything, and then just fell out. Fell over and didn't, it wasn't trying to get back up. It wasn't anything. It literally, it was dead.
Yeah.
And then I think why people say they prefer the frontal is, and I can understand why, if you see a frontal shot and you see it's hit perfectly where you want it to, where you think is perfect, it's pretty well dead, because I don't know, you have less stuff in the way, and you're pretty well hitting the top of the heart. If you're not,
definitely,
the only place where the arrow is going to fully submerge itself is you're going to be hitting the heart and both lungs, where the heart joins the lungs, or the heart itself. Whereas broadside shots, arrows can do funny things. They can clip a rib, which 9 times out of 10 that arrow is just going to zip straight through it and do the perfect shot. But it could do something weird, like fold back and go between the shoulder and the chest cavity. Or I've had a few, Brett's buffalo bull, his one with the bow, he hit it in what you'd look at it and go, that is the perfect shot placement. And it was, because the bull ran 30 meters and then we put some more into it and it was dead. It was a great shot. But when that first impact hit, we were fizzing. We were fuck, that is such a good shot. Plenty of penetration, perfect placement. You'd just expect that bull to go 80 meters or less and then die. But some broadside shots, they look great, and yes, you've collected enough on the way through to pull him up and put a finisher in there, but you just can't understand how that animal's still alive. They're tough.
Yeah,
they're freaking tough.
And so, your preference, would you prefer a double lung or a heart shot on the broadside if you could with an arrow?
Yeah, it's all dependent on someone's, confidence with their gear, and also someone's hunting experience. If someone might be greatly confident with the gear out to 50, 60, 70 meters and they've shot a lot of targets, but you put a 600 kilo animal 24 meters away from them, they've forgot all their form, and all of a sudden they're struggling to shoot, like a dinner plate size. And it's happened to us all. And that feeling is why we do it. That adrenaline can't be recreated.
Definitely.
So, if someone is an accomplished hunter and they've done a lot, I like people to shoot as far forward as they can without hitting the shoulder joint. So, perfectly in line with the front leg, halfway up their body. You can see when they stand, you can see how that shoulder blade comes forward to the ball joint, and then that bone then comes back. There's the triangle,
Yes, exactly. Triangle of death that everyone talks about.
If you can tuck it in as close behind, obviously if it's quarter in on, you want to be as close as you can be. If it's quarter in super heavy, which is not a shot we take very often at all, you'd be going between, on the inside of that shoulder, between the shoulder blade and the neck. You've got to imagine that arrow going,
out the other side,
through the dead center. My theory is, you've got to imagine where his heart is in regards to what angle he's on, and don't aim for, the outside edge you're aiming at. You're aiming to hit that heart, whether it's, between the neck and the shoulder. Your ideal shot, obviously, full broadside, hit straight up in line with that in the triangle of death. And buffalo, everything sits a lot further forward,
Yes.
The heart and lungs, the majority of the lungs is protected by that shoulder.
Yeah, wow. Okay.
But failing that, for whatever reason, obviously quartering away, you aim a little bit further back because you don't want to go in front of the lungs.
Yes.
But if for whatever reason you don't feel, some people have a mental block that they can't shoot that close to that front leg, you get, especially a lot of people that have shot a lot of deer, and Americans as well, that use mechanicals. They're so used to shooting behind that crease because they don't want to hit bone, and they're using a big cutting edge on their broadheads.
Yeah.
Whereas, if you can't bring yourself to shoot at that triangle, some people say, I want to lung them. I prefer people to I'm going to have to turn this alarm off.
Yeah, go for it. It's actually it's not interrupting us at all, which is good. It just keeps going off in your ear.
And once they I lost my train of
So
thought.
shooting,
Once they
shooting
want,
so close, yeah.
once they want to shoot sort of double lung, if they want to shoot further back, I ask them to aim a little bit higher. So instead of aiming halfway up the animal in that triangle of death, if you want to shoot further back, I prefer them to hit them a slightly higher shot.
Okay.
Just because if you double lung them low, if you single lung a buffalo low, you need my little hunting dog to track him down. You need a little weasel, the terrier, to track him down. Like they're amazing on one lung, but if you single or double lung them high, like it is so amazing how quick you can kill one with a high double lung shot, man. Like obviously they've got a big ticker and it's pumping a lot of blood and it fills them up and they're dead within 20, 30 seconds, sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Which is, because they're very different to deer in the respect that buffalo, when they're hit, they don't, because they've got less predators, I suppose, they don't necessarily always just charge off into the distance,
Mm-hmm.
They'll often stand and look to see what's hit them. So if you haven't double lunged them, or, if you've clipped one lung and their broadhead's not in the cutting zone, he's not then running to, get that broadhead doing all the damage.
Exactly.
And they'll sometimes know they're hurt, and instead of running, they'll just slowly walk into the thick stuff and bed down, or, and you can still lose them like that, because whereas a deer that might be not necessarily hit tremendously, it might just panic and run that fast that it could have survived it, but, the broadhead inside it or the blood pumping,
damage. Yeah, definitely.
It kills itself that way.
Yeah, I mean, really, like the way that the animals attack each other would probably feel pretty similar to what a broadhead's going to feel like, or an arrow's going to feel like at times, right? Like a buffalo side knocking each other, or deer running into each other with their antlers is going to feel probably pretty similar to what you get from an arrow. So I think first thoughts would be like, who the fuck's there? Like, who did that to me, sort of thing, rather than someone's trying to attack me. At least with the buffalo, with the deer, they've got so many things to worry about that they would run. In regards to, like, obviously you're talking about a lot of what you do is just driving around to try find the buffalo. Firstly, is it pretty much you got to find the water source, you got to find the food? That's the main kind of key for you guys when you get out there?
Yeah, I suppose, obviously, being on that property now for over 5 years, not always professionally hunting, but, I know areas that are going to hold animals.
Yeah.
And yes, it changes from season to season. But, it's, hunting's hunting wherever you are in the world. If you've got what they want, they've got, areas to bed, they've got areas that they feed, they've got areas that they drink from. And, like, we have the luxury, well, I don't know if you call it luxury or not, it's not great for the animals, but when it gets dry at the end of the season, their water source is permanent springs, swamps, and the river systems.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're like clockwork, you wait for it to heat up and they're going to have to come for a drink. So, they might change up their times with varying pressure levels, or they might change up this, but, like, the one thing they can't avoid is they've still got to freaking drink water,
Definitely.
So, you can figure it out where they're going to be between, if you know where they sleep and you know where they feed, you can figure that out.
And so is there a lot of difference between your scrub bulls and your buffalo then?
Yeah, like, we would never guarantee a colossal scrub bull. Like, if someone's open-minded and keen to shoot, we'll always get you a scrub bull, but their numbers they're definitely less numbers, but they are a lot harder to hunt. Like, sometimes, well, the majority of the time when you see scrub bulls from the truck, they're already at a brisk pace, heading off into the hills, and then you've got to, decide how you're going to get in front of them, like on foot, or come back another day and hopefully catch them out on foot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they're a lot more have a lot more range than the buffalo, in the sense that, a buffalo, he'll have his ladies and he'll have his swamp, and that's where he'll be. Mm-hmm. He might be 8-10 kilometers that way for whatever reason. There's a girl over there, or he goes for a walk. But within the next 2 or 3 weeks, you'll pretty well see him within that area again. Whereas a scrub bull, you can see one in the middle of nowhere. There's no reason to see him. There's no water. There's no good feed. Like, he's just in this rocky shit crossing the track. And then, the best thing, the one that makes you chuckle the most as an outfitter is, it's a great bull and the person would be happy to shoot them. And they go, oh, well, I'd like to get my buffalo first. And they go, oh, we should if you really want to scrub bull, we should go, because, I can't guarantee finding him again. And it's the age old, oh, we'll just come back for him. And you spend the next 3 days looking and never see him again. And then, I might not see him for another 3 or 4 weeks or 5 weeks. And then I might see him 15 kilometers away on a different stretch of river, or not even see him till, 2 years later, which has happened before.
That's crazy. So tell me, compared to outfitting, obviously when you've gone and you were essentially mustering them at one point, weren't you? Completely getting the scrub bulls. So tell me, did you learn much about the scrub bulls in that phase that's helped you whilst you're doing the outfitting, or not really? It's two different landscapes.
It's so different in the fact that, you basically have a helicopter, you have eyes in the sky, and they're basically bringing them to you. And because you're in vehicles and you need to get a truck there, you're very limited with the mustering where you can go, because you have to be able to get a six-wheel drive truck to get them in, to get them home. So, you don't go do the adventuring that we do hunting. Yes. I did tail thrown them before off two-wheel motorbikes, so I know my ability around a scrub bull. In a attack situation, I'd be confident that I could give it a bit of a sidestep and stuff. I've been in plenty of sets of cattle yards with animals that want to eat you.
Tail throwing is essentially grabbing it and then trying to move in the opposite direction to put it off of its direction that it's trying to travel in. Is that right?
Oh, you just sort of, you lap him around on the two-wheeler until he's a bit tired, and you try run them in one direction. So you try keep bending them to the left or to the right, which my sort of throttle hand is my right, so I run them left-handed. And then when they're at the perfect amount of tiredness, between the stage of them turning around to want to kill you and but they're exhausted enough that they've slowed down a little bit, you then ride up alongside them. As you're riding along, you grab their tail, and sometimes you do it off the motorbike. Sometimes you'll just, give the motorbike a handful of throttle, and because you've got his tail, it'll pull him over.
Yeah.
But other times, depending on if he's gone into the rocky stuff and you can't chase him, you'll get on foot, grab his tail, and you try to get his attention with your body. So he turns onto the side, whichever his outside legs have been, running in a circle, they're tired. He tries to turn to hook you. And at the same time, you pull towards his head, which seems, so weird, because he's trying to attack you, but you're putting all your body weight towards his head. And, it sort of uses his own weight against him, because he's off balance trying to get you. You just pull his ass over and then
done.
Well, it's not as easy. Not as easy as that. That makes it sound very easy. And you flip his tail between his back legs and put your knees on his pelvis. And as you lean back, because of the way he's held, it's like a turtle on his back. If he can't get his feet down, he can't get you.
Mate, that is insane. I only just came across the pretty much the mustering of the scrub bulls a few years ago with the arms and stuff like that on the cars. It's just an absolutely different world when you see that. And to go and to be doing it, was it scary as all buggery to start with, or not really? You kind of you're just in amongst it.
I don't know. I've always been pretty lively. I've sort of got a bit of adrenaline out of things like that. And I've been on a property my whole life. So I sort of, as long as you know your ability around wild animals, and it's transferable to the hunting, because even the maddest bull catcher or the maddest bull thrower, Ringer, he's never going to step off to a mature buffalo bull. Yes. People do it with young Mickeys, immature bulls. And because they're such short, stout animals, usually he's basically got to sit down on his own accord. They've got to chase until he's that tired that he basically gives up,
Yeah.
Whereas, we'll all happily get off to yes, some big Brahman bulls, the big Brahman style ones that are very heavy in the body. They're scary. They're big, angry looking animals. But, your red shorthorn, your majority of your scrub bulls, yes, they're scary. But if you know your own ability and what you can do, you back yourself, and you get it done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
yeah, dude, that's crazy. That's wild.
We certainly, in a hunting scenario, you respect them all because they all have the capability of killing you. And yeah, I've had,
not going to go running in a circle so you can take a shot. Not going to try tactic and sake.
No, I've had more close calls with scrub bulls in an injured scenario.
When they're injured?
I think it's because they go down a lot easier. They're being shot and they've either hit them in no man's land, but the bullet, this is with the rifle, the bullet impact has dropped them on the spot, and then you get up there, and I never relax. Like, I've always, got a bullet in the spout and walking up with them and make sure to tell them, tree to tree, keep cover, like always thinking about your options to get up a tree or high, or be ready to shoot again. But I don't know, they just seem to cover ground quicker and they drop easier. So, people let their guard down and they think they've done the job, but, not necessarily over. Whereas with the buffalo, yes, they're a lot tougher to kill, but because you've seen that in the process, you've automatically gained that extra respect from. You don't go walking up going, oh yeah, you don't have your comfort zone up because you think, holy frick, that thing's tough. Like he could, he'll still be on the ground dead as a net, but he'll be trying to lift his head and, so I think, yeah.
The amount of damage one of those could do would be ridiculous, right?
Yeah. Buffaloes are a lot more calculated with the horns and a lot more accurate. Like if they put you up a tree, which I haven't really had happen to me, I've had it once, but they will not let you go. Like they'll stand under that tree until they need a drink, or something. They'll stand there for hours. Whereas a scrub bull, if he chased you, there's a good chance if you dodge behind a tree or something like that, he'll just run past you and, forget you're even there and he'll just keep going.
Yeah, wow.
Whereas a buffalo, he'd turn around and he'd want to, keep going until he got you.
So what are you saying? If you get chased by a buffalo, you just got to keep running?
Nah, you won't outrun one. They've got four-wheel drive.
Yeah.
The only thing they can't do is climb trees. So
yeah, it's quite funny. We were actually out hunting the other weekend. And I was like, it'd just be so good to be able to run up a hill like an animal can. Just you see how quickly they just power up everything, right? And you just couldn't keep up no matter how fit you were.
Yeah, well, they don't have like bags of chips and chocolate biscuits and ice cream and stuff,
All that processed garbage. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so if someone wanted to come up and go for a hunt with you in the coming years, like, have you got availability or are you pretty full up over this next season?
We are pretty chockers for 2023. We've got like a slight amount of availability in the start of May, like right at the start of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And we usually, it sounds funny, but we usually book that up last because we got to see how the wet season's playing out to see how early we can start hunting.
Especially recent years, right? Like it's just been out of whack.
Yeah, well, you guys over in the East Coast have actually been getting all our rain. We've had some particularly dry years, which is allowing us to hunt earlier, which is great for the hunting. And, the animals are more isolated sort of thing, but it's not that great for the animals. They're doing it tougher, so the horn growth isn't as much, or the survival rate on calves, even though they're super fertile and super resilient. That's why they get in such numbers. Is not as great. So the drier seasons aren't as good for that. But yeah, we sort of go May till September. But 2024, we're all good. We got plenty of availability then. Plan ahead.
But I mean, it's exactly what we're talking about, right? Like if you set it as a priority and start working towards it, it's something that you can definitely do. How about the pig side of things? Do you guys do you have many pigs? Do you go chasing pigs? Like, is it kind of what's the rulings around that when someone comes up?
We do get good pigs every year. Like multiple clients will shoot good pigs. Like that, Kimmy and Ivan both got onto a pig with the bow. So did Brett, and we get some monster pigs too, like really big boars. But I wouldn't, if you want to go on a pig hunting trip, you want to go to like some floodplain country or even some of the neighbouring properties, which I have access to, where there's more cattle, like farmed cattle, like a higher concentration of livestock means, there's more carcasses for them. There's more grubs in the shit, There seems to be more food for them. So they've got a higher population of pigs. We can certainly organise that with neighbouring properties, but if you want to go on a pig hunt, don't come to us. We're a buffalo hunt.
Yes.
Buffalo scrub bulls, like we shoot some excellent scrub bulls. Like I don't want to sound big headed, but we shoot some of the better ones that I see out there consistently. But yeah, as far as pigs go, man, like there's a lot better places to hunt pigs. Definitely. But there's always the opportunity. You see their tracks. You're on the swamps and the springs, they are there, but yeah, you wouldn't want to go hunting just for pigs.
I appreciate the honesty. It's good, man. Like you could have easily just said, "Yeah, we've got pigs," but that's great. In regards to picking up the bow, do you think there's obviously you were kind of a veteran hunter prior, and picking up the bow, do you feel like there's been any major changes to your outlook on hunting in general?
I probably appreciate an animal that in the past, this sounds bad. Like I never don't appreciate an animal, but the amount of satisfaction I get from getting an animal with the bow, even if it's what in my perspective, I would class as like not as much of a trophy for myself personally.
Yep.
It's just changed the scale on what I see as, a big achievement,
Definitely.
To me now, I've shot a few donkeys with the bow. Like we've got 20 odd working dogs between pig dogs and cattle dogs at the station. We have to go shoot a donkey occasionally for, dog food.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'd go do it once a week with the rifle and think nothing of it, so bang, chop them up, take them home, done. But, got the weekend off or whatever, or got an evening off, and I go stalk in and get it done with the bow, That animal at once was just like, not a chore, but, it was like part of my working day, go shoot a donkey in for feeding the dogs.
Yes.
It's now become like I'm so proud of myself. And,
yeah, definitely.
I've achieved it. And like, they're a pretty tough critter. They can be a tough critter to kill. Like they can soak up, especially with the gun, they can soak up a bit of lead. But I've had great success with the bow. Like it's been clean.
Yeah.
But yeah, it turns something, a hunting situation that I maybe wouldn't have valued into something that like makes lasting memories and, progresses me as a hunter.
Definitely. And do you kind of feel like the bar has been reset for you in a sense? Like what I mean by that is like, I don't know if you've ever been fully driven by numbers as such when it comes to trophy animals, but do you feel like, okay, well, I've got this whole new level of things I can get because of the bow?
Yeah, I definitely want to revisit some animals. Like I'm fortunate. Well, I've made myself fortunate in the respect that, I've got access in central Queensland for really good rooster deer.
Yeah.
I've got options for bangtang with friends, like obviously I'm still paying sort of thing, but
Definitely.
it's a lot more achievable for me.
Yes.
Affordable, I suppose. I want to go do a bangtang with a bow. I freaking left my bow in camp on the third day of hunting because I wanted to get it done. Last time I was up there in the Coburg with the outfitter, and the day that I took the gun, not the bow, I shot my bangtang at 30 meters with the rifle, But
you get closest, right? Always the way.
And I had another one at 12. But yeah, I'd love to do all the Australian deer and certainly want to go get a bangtang. I don't honestly think for a long time I'll top the bovines I've shot with the bow recently. Like I've been fortunate in the fact that, I know good areas. There's one buffalo cow there that I'd seen for 3 years running, and I don't know, between being busy and not making time, and not wanting to just shoot her with a gun because I could have gone out and done it. Shooting her, that rush and the whole sort of experience of that is going to take some beating for a bigger, better buffalo cow.
Yes, yeah.
I shot an awesome buffalo bull with the bow. Like that was my second buffalo bull. He was just, once in a lifetime with the bow sort of thing.
Yeah, wow. That big scrub you put down at the end of last year was pretty decent too, right?
Yeah, no, he's a freak. He's a freak. I don't know, everyone comes up and wants a brindle, which we sort of have a lot of. Well, I wouldn't say we have a lot of. We get multiple per year.
Yeah.
But, he was just everything. He had body mass. He was old. His teeth were all worn out. I'll send you through some photos. It's pretty cool.
Definitely.
Mass of the horns, length of the horns. He just looked evil. Like he looked mad. He looked crazy.
I feel like anything with any like Brahmin mix with black on them. I don't know if you've ever seen like how much you're around the Brahmins. You've got Brahmins up there, don't you?
Yeah, that's all
so
we run.
All the red ones with the black in their eyes or the grey ones with the black in the eyes, they just look evil, man.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I always have a chuckle to myself about, especially if hunters bring their wives or kids or like non-hunter friends, I'll be out there with the binos and I'll give them a set. And some buffalo, they actually look friendly. Like, you look through the binos and he might be like 500 kilos of just pure meat with big horns. But he's there chewing his grass and he's looking, he's got his fluffy ears pointing forward. And, people are like, oh, he looks friendly. And then, I obviously say, go out there and tap him on the ass and see how friendly he is. But, the scrub bulls, 99.9% of the time you look at them, if they're mature, they look freaking evil, man. Like they have the sort of skin rubbed off in front of their eyes and their ears are usually shredded from wild dogs or fighting one another, which I hate for caping. Like I do not like head skinning scrub bulls. But they just look evil.
Yeah.
And they're a lot harder to get closer to. Like a scrub bull, any scrub bull with a bow is a massive achievement.
Mm-hmm.
They're easier to kill in the respect that their skin's thinner and their ribs are smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So, easier to kill in that respect, but a lot harder to get closer to. And when they hit, they're not like a buffalo that might run 10, 15 meters and then turn around and potentially, give you a shot from the other side, or a second opportunity to sneak back in before he really spooks. Like with the scrub bulls, I feel like that first arrow, which we always intend, but has to really hit its mark, it has to be perfect.
Yeah. So they'll just run and run and run, or will they run at you?
Oh, I don't think, like, I know I was talking about the whole hiding behind trees things. Like, it's very rare that we ever put ourselves in a situation where you get charged.
Mm-hmm.
I have multiple people, obviously a few beers in and talking to their friends, they're going to say they got charged because, you shoot the animal. If it unbeknowingly runs in a direction, it's just been hurt and it runs.
Definitely, yeah.
We've snuck into like sub 30 meters. He doesn't have a freaking clue where the shots come from. He's got hurt. He might turn and run within a few meters of us. And
Definitely.
Obviously my comfort zone sort of once they're getting under 20 and they're moving at pace, like, I've got a big gun there and I'm ready to do the job. But if they're not onto us at all and we're like behind a big tree or we're in such a safe position, they might run straight past you within 5 meters. And
Definitely.
Obviously everyone's adrenaline's going and old mate's going, holy shit, that charge was crazy. But, he goes another 50 meters, expires, and, he was dead on his feet and it was just a scenario.
Running, yeah.
But whereas, like, I think as a bow hunter, when you take a shot anyway, you don't start jumping up and down and cheering. Like, you usually stay pretty secluded and hidden.
Yes.
So 9 times out of 10, like, if you hit one, obviously you stay quiet and you assess the situation. You will put another arrow on the string and get ready to go again. Unless they really clock onto you, they're not going to line you up. Like, they will, if they're injured and you're tracking them injured into something, or you're following, like going for a follow-up shot, and obviously you've got to breach that sort of being quiet and get in there and getting the job done, like closing the gap.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. In that scenario, you're not being as quiet as you are. They've just been hurt, so they're pissed off. And then the first thing they see is 2 puny little ants coming through with something in their hand, trying to finish them off. In that scenario, yes, definitely have charges from both.
Yeah.
But, in that scenario, we're not getting up trees. I'm hooking in with 500 grains of lead, big boy bullets and getting the job done.
Definitely. I actually think that there's so much more we can talk about, but what I actually want to uncover is the fallow deer that you did over in New Zealand before we wrap up. And I know that wasn't with the bow as such, but it's just an absolute crazy size fallow. Was that New Zealand?
Yeah, the one without the bow, there's like a really light, like a whitish almost, white mendel.
Let me scroll back and see if I can find it again. It was this guy.
Yeah. So that was, I was working for NZ Taxidermy when I was over there. I did a fair bit of sheep work down in Southland, and then, being away from the missus and what have you, I just sort of, it was the early stages of our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of wanted to go back up to Christchurch and had a job opportunity at a taxidermist, which was great. Yes, I could head skin before, but, taught me the tips and tricks and what I could get away with, and improved my sort of speed. And through him, he's just well connected and knew a few people, and we worked out a bit of a deal with a property owner over there. Like, he's coming over here, sort of thing.
Yeah, good.
He has great fallow and stuff on a big hill like sheep block there.
Yeah.
And Zimmy, my boss, Daniel, he sort of knew his way around up there, and we went up there, and that was with his big bloody hardy 7mm Rem mag precision, shoot something at God knows how far sort of thing.
Yeah, okay.
But no, we did stalk him properly. We seen him as we were going into the property, and we thought we'd go try get. It was actually, believe it or not, a couple of bigger bucks they'd seen there.
Wow, dude, he's like a moose.
But they,
like
these other ones,
crazy.
the other ones were like freaky. But they were your standard colouring, your standard sort of Mendel, chocolate Mendel sort of things.
Yeah,
and we didn't see anything. We seen a few bucks, but nothing that was sort of. I loved the colour of this buck too when we first seen him. So we sort of thought we'll go back and have a look. And we spent a little while looking. Didn't get onto him over the first couple of ridges we thought he'd be in. And and unfortunately for him, his colour, he was bedded down with like another 2 other bucks. His colour, even though it was thick undergrowth, like he sort of had a disadvantage of being white on a green hillside. So,
definitely.
Yeah.
So, is Australia home for you now?
Yes, it should be. As long as all these bloody citizenship visas and the government stop changing the goalposts so regularly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm committed. I would love Australia to be home, at least for, the foreseeable future.
Yes.
We bought a house. All these sort of things are happening. But, if it gets to the stages where we're settling down and wanting a family, her family are in New Zealand, Justina's family, my partner, her family are in New Zealand, and my family are in England. Yes, we've got great mates, which are almost like, they are family to us here in Australia.
Yeah.
But you just can't ask the same of your friends as what you can your family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
So, if it comes to that stage, we're open to potentially moving around, but that's, I don't know. We plan a lot in life, but how far ahead? We can't plan that far ahead.
No, exactly. And for right now, you're well situated and set yourselves up, which is awesome. So, dude, I think probably the best thing to do is actually just what are your Instagram handles on for your personal one? It's just Harry Stenton, just your name, right?
Yeah, so I'm just Harry Stenton. There's only seems to be one of me on there. There's many Stentons getting around.
And then the Wild Outfitters.
True Wild Outfitters is my work page, and that's for sure probably my most active one. I've started to do a little bit more with my social medias, the busy hunting season's over, but I'm openly not the best at necessarily replying or checking things on my personal one, but obviously my work one, I prioritize that and get around that a bit.
I think also, like you said, right, when you're out in the actual hunting season and your job is to help skin out animals and do the whole thing from start to finish, and you're up till 1 p.m. most nights and then driving people back to get the next lot of clients, like it's understandable as to why in that season you might not be as active.
Yeah. And I mean, up until we got Starlink's only just come in here in the last few months,
Yes.
up until then, we didn't have satellite Wi-Fi obviously at the lodge we do, like the flash accommodation we do, but at the hunting camp, it was, you could use my sat phone to ring your missus or text your missus if you were needing to touch base for whatever sort of, reasons. But it was an awesome experience because we had no phones, and some people loved it. Some people hated it to start with, and most people left really loving it by the end of the week,
Definitely.
If you lead a busy life, which we all sort of do in this modern day, there's something pretty cool about being disconnected from society for a week at a time,
100%, man. It's very freeing, right? What it can do just to put down a silly device. It seems crazy that can dictate so much of your life, having a phone, but just stepping away from that and giving it no power for a week is a very powerful thing.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult when you're running a business. Like you got your sat phones and stuff, and it's all been well and good in previous years, but things were so changed so much through COVID times. We might all be go. This state's all good to go, and then a week out, like I'm at bush, I have nothing. A week out, I'll get a text on my sat phone. Oh, they've changed the restrictions. We can't come in anymore.
Yeah.
And then for 2 years, I've been juggling people like. This year, I've got one more client, and then that's, the whole cluster F created by that COVID is now history as far as, my bookings and clients. So it's taken a long time, a lot of effort, and a lot of head fucks to try and figure it out. But yeah, we got there.
Just about there. Yeah, that's incredible. And so is Starlink, is it pretty incredible for you guys?
I've not purchased it yet. Like we're sort of in our off season and don't kick off until the start of May.
Yeah, I see. Yep.
But it's something I've got friends around us, like agricultural, like machinery contractors and other sort of tradies that do a lot of remote station work, and they've got it, and they rate it. It's not cheap, but I mean, satellite internet is. But they're freaking streaming Netflix in the middle of Arnhem Like it's
so bizarre.
It's good. It's good for me in a business sense, and
definitely,
as much as not using your phone is great. There's a lot of people in different situations where if they're running business or they've got commitments with family or whatever, like it's sort of essential. But I still feel like I'll push in the camp, you didn't come out here you didn't freaking come out here to sit on your phone, mate, sit around the fire, watch the bush TV and bloody spin a few yarns, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting, like for me running a business completely online, what it has opened, like having Starlink, has opened up the possibility for us to now travel Australia with the young family. Like we're seriously considering buying a caravan and just going on the wheels and driving around instead. So it's kind of opened up that world for me, which is pretty cool. And like you said, opened up a world of the internet for all over Australia, which is pretty crazy. So yeah, it will be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, no, I think it's certainly a great thing. Like obviously we have EPIRBs and sat phones and like inReaches too. Like we have all the safety stuff for that.
Mm-hmm.
But and we give all our clients a rundown of the safety of guns and the safety of animals and the dangerous things that can happen. But the physical fact of having mobile search, if the shit hits the fan, yes, we can save ourselves now, but it's so much easier if you can make that Wi-Fi call to get yourself out of a situation, or
Definitely.
Something happens and Google. I don't know what people did before Google. You could be a mechanic 1 minute and then a 5-star chef the next minute. Like you can learn so much off it. It's sort of like you're a bit handicapped sometimes when you can't just Google it.
Definitely. Yeah, it's interesting, right? Like with all these things that we've now got access to, are humans going to be dumber? Who knows, right? Like another 10 years down track where everything's relied on the quick flick of a finger instead of going and doing the research yourself. I don't know. I'm intrigued.
I think there's a lot of different ways to judge someone's intellectual ability. Like if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it's going to be a pretty shit fish, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, it's a long way off yet, that's for sure. But Harry, man, I appreciate your time, dude. It's been really cool. It's been a fun conversation. I think we'll definitely have to have you back because there's so much more we can untouch in regards to the other stuff that you've done guiding-wise around the world. But also just, I'm sure there's 1,000 stones we haven't turned over yet, so we'll have to have you back for sure, man.
No, that sounds good. I really appreciate you having me on. And yeah, it was a bit of a shock to the system when I got asked, but sort of listening to all your podcasts and stuff, it turns out I know a few people on there, so...
Yeah, it's a small. I think it's great. It's a great community. It's also a small community, right, that we've got here in Australia, and I think it's great that it's growing. It's awesome.
No, it is, and yeah, it's awesome stuff you put out there, and certainly sort of helping me on my bow hunting journey. And
thanks, dude.
I can assure you, it's really helping a lot of other people out there that maybe haven't done a heap of hunting. Like it's a daunting world to get into, and this is pretty awesome to hear. Just normal humans talking crap about hunting.
Thanks, dude. I really appreciate that. It's really, really nice to hear. That wraps up this week's episode. Thank you so much for joining us, team. If you did have any topics, questions, or you wanted to suggest a guest for Becoming a Bowhunter, you can send me an email at matty@becomingabowhunter.com. If you're enjoying the show or you've enjoyed in particular episodes, please do me a solid and share it around with your friends. If you are not already, please hit the subscribe button, as the more subscribers we get, the higher the podcast gets ranked, and that definitely helps out for showing it to other individuals. If you are not already following me on Instagram, it's at becomingabowhunter.podcast, and on YouTube, it's Becoming a Bowhunter. Get out, team, fling some arrows, get that practice in, and walk those yards in the paddocks until you find those critters. That is it for now, but not the last time that you'll hear from Becoming a Bowhunter.